The first film I saw this weekend, guys, it's hit UK cinemas, is A Quiet Place, which of course is written and directed by John Krasinski. It's his directorial debut. You probably know him as the guy from The Office, and who does a lot of other funny things. So a little bit of a surprise that he's doing a horror film. But this one it's a really interesting one. It's a really cool concept. It's essentially set in the future, and aliens, for whatever reason, have landed on Earth, and they done fucked it. So humans are really kind of fighting for survival here. But the thing with these aliens, which makes them slightly different to other aliens we've seen in films, is that they are drawn to any sound they hear. They just see it and they latch straight onto that, and they just shred it apart. So essentially, if you make a noise, you're fucked, kind of. So we follow a family as they're trying to survive in this apocalyptic world where aliens are trying to fuck them up. And it's really, really fucking good. Really, really solid directorial debut from John Krasinski here. I believe it was produced by Michael Bay, which is an odd one. But that out of the way, it's a really, really solid little horror thriller, whatever you want to call it. A lot of great stuff to get into here. I mean, the first thing to talk about, I guess, is the fact that it's from John Krasinski. It's his first time directing, and I think he's got writing credits on this one as well. And I love it when people who are known for being one way come out and do something which is very different and unexpected, and it works. Sort of like Jordan Peele with Get Out. John Krasinski is a hilarious dude from The Office, and he's come out and delivered a really solid horror film. So who saw that coming? But it's really great. As the premise would suggest, and if you've seen any of the trailers, it is a quiet film. I don't know if I had to explain that because it's in the name, kind of, but it is a really quiet film, and I love the way that it plays on that side of things. You've got these characters that are trying their hardest not to make a single noise, but there are different things about each character which makes it a little bit harder for them to go about doing that. So I don't want to spoil anything, but one of the characters is deaf, played really fantastically by, give me 1 second, just got to find the name of the actress, Millicent Simmons, who's also in another film out this weekend called Wonderstruck, but we're not going to be talking about that because I've already did a review on my YouTube channel. But yeah, she's in the film. She is a deaf actress, which is really cool, and her character's deaf in the film. And it's little things like that the characters have, which make it a little bit more interesting than just people trying not to make a noise. Because we've all been there, you know, we've all been there on the tube trying to toot, and not make one of those loud style farts, because no one wants to be sat next to that guy on the tube. But I'm just sort of rambling on now. But no, really cool different parts of the characters that set up interesting situations in this film. And right from the get-go, this film, it sets up as it's pretty brutal. I mean, it's not brutal in the sense that it shows a lot of graphic content, but it is brutal in the sense that it's not afraid to fuck people up. I don't know. I think everyone will agree with me. From the very first scene of this film, something happens. You're like, oh, okay, we're there now. This film isn't afraid to do that. And I think from that initial setting up of a scene as a kind of prologue to the film, you constantly know the stakes, and you're always worried that someone's going to get fucked up. That's at least how I felt. And I think that really works this film's advantage, because it's a very tense film. That's something I thought John Krasinski did very well, and that's building the tension. And that it ties into the fact that it is such a quiet film as well. It's so quiet, this film. Characters rarely talk, because if they do, they're going to get shredded. But that means that a lot of the film is told through sign language, and you can hear the environment around them, and it really does play up to that, trying to be as quiet as you can. And when you're in a cinema watching this one, you get sucked into it. It's hard not to. I mean, I had like a bottle of Pepsi, and I didn't drink it through the whole film because I was afraid to be the guy that twists the cap and it's just like, shh, and then everyone just turns on me in a cinema. I didn't want to be that guy. And you could hear people were like, do I reach into my bag of popcorn? Is this the right moment? Or just waiting for that moment. The moment never comes because it's just constantly quiet. Yeah, it really works. Very, very tense film. I think the performances as well really, really help with that sort of thing. Very, very emotionally driven performances as well. I wasn't quite sure going into this film what the dramatic beats of the story would be. It's quite hard to tell from the trailer, but I was very surprised at the way this film handled the kind of family elements and the dramatic storyline throughout. It's got some really powerful moments, particularly from John Krasinski, who gives a fantastic performance, and Emily Blunt as well. I mean, the two of them at this point are just the number one power couple. I want to just snuggle between them in bed every night and have them tell me everything's okay. But they're really great together in this film. Emily Blunt, fantastic as usual. The kids are really, really great. So everyone's giving solid performances in a really tense, went full fucking Sean Connery on you guys there. It was a tense film. I don't know what that was. We're going to move on swiftly from that. But yeah, tense film. I think the main thing that's going to bug people, and I mean, I guess it is a flaw with the film, but it's only so much of the flaw as you want it to be, if that makes sense. But the entire concept of this one, the entire premise of being set in this world where you make a single noise and aliens will hear it and they'll go for you, leads to some moments which I think, depending on how you want to look at these things in a film and depending on how much you're willing to suspend your disbelief in this one, can lead to some frustrating and potentially annoying moments. You know, like, you're always going to have characters that are like making a noise and you're like, they would have been heard, or characters that are making noise when you're like, you would genuinely be trying as hard as you can not to make a noise here. Sorry. And I don't think it's much of a problem, because you've got to let that stuff go in this film. If you're going to go in this with this kind of cinema sins, I'm looking for everything wrong with this film, you're going to find stuff like that. But there are a couple of moments for me where I was like, wouldn't one of the aliens hear that and just straight up rip this person to shreds? But then you think about it, and the film does a good enough job of dropping hints as to why they might not hear certain things. And that's something else I really enjoyed about the film. It would have been very easy to start going down and trying to explain a lot about why these aliens were here, what's going on, because there's this kind of temptation, I think, when you're writing a film like this, to go down that rabbit hole and try and explain everything to get rid of plot holes. But in doing that, you actually end up unraveling a lot and making a lot more plot holes. I like the way that this film is very simple in its setup. It immediately drops you in like day 89 that this has happened. It never shows you how this thing started or where the aliens come from. You really just know about these aliens through what the characters know, and there's this genuine feeling throughout the film that these characters are constantly learning about these aliens, and that really works in the film to create these moments of tension and to help it get through a lot of these more suspension of disbelief moments in the film. As an audience, you're learning more about them with the characters. I thought that worked really well, and you get to the end of this film, and it's a really, really good ending to this film. I thought this film was just building and building to a really satisfying climax. And it's just a really great film overall. I was surprised at how effective it was in the drama department as well. Because for the first half of this film, I got to be honest, there are moments where the dialogue felt a little bit clunky. There are certain lines I was like, I'm not sure about. And I wasn't quite sure how the film was trying to make us feel about certain dramatic elements or what the drama would be in the film. Or at least some of the elements on that side of things felt a little bit obvious and forced. But it wasn't until the second half of this film where some of those things started to click a bit more, when it really started to work for me. And there's one scene in particular near the end of this film. Obviously, won't spoil it for you guys. But there's this scene where one character has to do something to protect the other ones. That's all I'll say. I think you'll know what I mean if you've seen the film. It really, really worked for me, and it was incredibly powerful. And it was at that moment that everything that had been set up through the film suddenly worked a lot more for me, and I was moved. I was moved by it, and I thought it was an incredibly powerful scene and a very intelligently executed one as a director-writer from John Krasinski. And there's moments like that throughout the film, which really show that this guy's got a lot of talent behind the camera, and I'm very excited to see what else John Krasinski's got for us under his sleeves. I'm sure he's got some great stuff lined up. But this, as a directorial debut, was incredibly satisfying, incredibly entertaining, very tense. It was scary, but it wasn't really like, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to walk home at night scary, but it's not trying to be that. It's a different type of horror. And I thought it really, really worked. I was a very, very big fan of A Quiet Place. I think you should definitely go and see it in the cinema. It's the best place to see it. I don't think it will have as much impact seeing it for the first time at home, because you don't get that feeling of everyone around you in the cinema trying as hard as they can not to be the person to break the tension. You can feel everyone holding their breath. Yeah, really, really happy with A Quiet Place. Very satisfied. A fantastic little horror film. Definitely go and check it out if you can.